morning, I'm Frank Powers, and this is Lifestyle Tucson, the program where I speak to our neighbors, the people behind the scenes of our amazing organizations that are 501c3 nonprofits. Our friends are informing you how they serve our community, and they're here to give you updates on future projects. Let's make some new friends today.
Real quick, I'm editing this, and there's some weird clicks in the beginning of the intro, but they go away. So bear with it for about 1 minute. Back to the show.
My dad is my hero. If I grew up to be half the man that he is, I'd be 3'2". He went to college at St. John's University for a staggering $1,000 to $1,500 per year for undergraduate tuition. Today, the base annual tuition for undergraduates is roughly $51,000. And when he graduated, he got a career for about $25,000. So that's working out, not paying those college loans for too long, is he? No wonder he was able to buy a home where I grew up on Long Island, of all places, in the mid-'70s for about $70,000. That same home sold 30 years later for about $750,000. What happened? How did the cost of housing, not to mention schools, skyrocket so much? How did the salaries not? What happens if you cannot find a place to live, let alone thrive as a family? The mission of Compass Affordable Housing is to improve the quality of individual, family, and community life through low-cost housing, support services, and advocacy. Compass Affordable Housing's vision is an engaged community working together to increase housing that is affordable at the local, state, and national level. They've got their core values of commitment, creativity, respect, service, teamwork, leadership, and it makes everything crystal clear. And today, I'm fortunate enough to speak with Carolyn R. Gorst, Development Director for Compass Affordable Housing. Carolyn, welcome to Lifestyle Tucson.
Thanks, Frank. It's a pleasure to be here.
What about that story, right? Because what did happen?
And there it is. That's the big $1 million plus, which may not be $1 million in today. What did happen? How is it that our college graduates, how are people in certified fields of study not being able to afford home ownership? Our millennials are the first generation that we've seen that aren't better off than their parents. And they're not able to afford a home, let alone market rate apartments.
And we're getting a lot of blame for it. And just look at the statistics, look at an infographic, look at a chart.
Right.
How are we supposed to be able to do this? My sister is making just about 6 figures. Mm-hmm. And we were talking off air and you're like, and that's not enough.
It's not.
And that's here in Arizona and other places. I'm talking about New York where it's really not, because it's insane there. So it's wild to see how it is, but how did we get here? So let's talk about some of that, but then we're also really going to talk about the 101. Let's kick off with that. The 101 of what Compass Affordable Housing is really all about.
I really like that you call it the 101. So the purpose of Compass Affordable Housing is to create safe places for human development. When we talk human development, we're talking about safe places for people to grow, to learn, and to live their lives with dignity and respect. We are looking at creating a interconnected continuum of safe housing for people to be able to move from instability all the way up to market rate. There isn't a one-size-fits-all solution when we don't receive the basic needs in life, that we don't have our physiological needs met, our safety needs met, our social needs met. It becomes harder and harder to participate in our social economy and in our actual fiscal economy. So what we are able to do is work first to help people find housing that fits them where they are currently, meeting them where they are, and begin helping them connect with resources in the community that are going to increase their knowledge, skills, and ability so that they increase their capacity for earning, for being able to care for themselves, mental well-being, physical well-being, and start becoming a participant in our greater economy rather than a dependent upon public services.
Okay, so I always like to use a phrase around here with certain organizations where they are bigger organizations that donate to small ones, and I say you're making the dominoes fall in the right direction. And it sounds like that's a bit of what you're trying to do, is make sure that people get on the path so that they can do everything in the right order to become, now, you've said it twice, what was that term? Market what?
Market rate.
What does that mean? Because we talk about all this stuff, but what does getting to market rate mean?
So in Tucson, currently, a standard, not luxury, but just a standard quality apartment, 1 bedroom, a single family apartment is $1,600 a month. That does not include your utilities. It does not include your food bill. It does not include your insurance, and it does not include your transportation. So if we work the math backwards, it means that someone earning basic minimum wage at, which I think is now $14.45 for Pima County, they are going to be what's called house burdened. They aren't going to be able to pay a $1,600 monthly rent and have it be only 30% or less of their total monthly income after taxes.
Now, is that the math? Is that if you're trying to be an adult growing on up, your rent is supposed to be about 30% of your income? Is that what you're saying?
That is in the economist's perfect world.
Sure.
A person who has a balanced budget is only going to be spending 30% of their adjusted gross monthly income on housing.
Okay.
And so whether that is your mortgage or that is your rent, it's 30% of your adjusted gross monthly income. That means that when we are looking at an average rent of $1,600 a month, it makes market rate apartments harder and harder for people to get into and to maintain for a year-long lease because they're always stealing from a month ahead in order to make this month's rent or to pay the utilities.
I know what that's like. So, and it's funny because even here in Tucson, so I moved here in 2005 and I got an apartment, which was like a nice, single house that they have here in Tucson. They don't have these everywhere, but you can get like a single house, and it was just split down the middle. So one lady, she lived on one side of it and I lived on the other. And it was $400 in 2005 for having my own home practically. And even as I've lived here over the next few years, I have watched how we live in the world of the $20 cheeseburger now. And that's what's changed too, is so much of everything has happened there. And I couldn't believe when we had to move how different it was looking and how big it got. Because the reason to move to Tucson back in the day, moving from New York, was to escape the amount of money that it would take to try to, again, not just live, but thrive in an area. And I did move back to Long Island after living here. And let me tell you something, drowning, absolutely having a tough time on Long Island, and then happy to move back. And I kept my New York job at my New York rate because I transferred to the grocery store that I was working at. So I was able to keep that high paying job out here in Tucson. It wasn't about minimum wage.
Exactly.
But we really need to focus on a lot of what has happened and how we can help. So why don't we just go over to compassaffordablehousing.org, because you've got your Compass communities, you've got your programs listed, as well as all the fun stuff so that people know they can trust you about being right there on the bottom. It's always good when you talk to these nonprofits. The gold transparency, very candid about what you do with everything. You are a candidate always for Arizona Gives Day, but you can also donate any time of day right here. A big purple button right there at the top to help all these families, help all these kids, because if we're talking about families, we're talking about kids, to build a better tomorrow. So let's talk about some of what we got going on. Why don't we talk about some of the programs? Would you like to start there?
Let's start with our programs. I think that's a really important piece of what we're doing beyond just building safe places for people to live. It's the programmatic piece that makes it different, because that's where the supportive services come that help people develop and to build their knowledge, skills, and abilities. The more knowledge we have, the better our skills, and the more ability we have to apply it to participate in the greater economy, and we aren't feeling as stuck. I'm going to steal your word here. We believe that's how we help people move from surviving to thriving.
Yeah, and that's the point.
That's the point.
To think about what my dad got to experience in the 70s, what most Americans got to experience in the 70s, and maybe I'm talking about white Americans, but let's not get into all the details about it, because yes, it's different for everybody. And again, being a New Yorker, being able to go to a university, all that stuff that he was able to do, to then start a family with 3 kids, couple of cats, right? And we were able to jump in that station wagon like National Lampoon and take a trip to Disney once a year. And that to me, is what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to live, raise those kids, even afford pets, and take a vacation.
Right.
Isn't that what we're all supposed to be able to do?
That is our American dream.
And that was also being my mom did not need to work. So I even got the privilege of that. Now I find some of my friends that are parents, it's like they're choosing to not work because I only got offered this much, and daycare and all this stuff costs this much, so I'd rather raise my own child.
Correct.
What a concept, right? Where you
Right.
got so many additional working parents now, and then this is why all the extra... I asked my brother, how come my nephew is in so many extracurricular activities? It's like, because we all have to work, and he's working 2 jobs and doing Lyft on the side just to survive. And it's ridiculous. How are we all... No wonder we're all so gritty. How are we all supposed to get by? You know? And again, be able to feel comfortable in our lives. It shouldn't be a struggle.
It shouldn't. And everyone deserves the respect and dignity of being able to have a quality of life and to work towards their dreams and goals. Everyone deserves to be able to have dreams and goals. And when you are living literally at a point where you don't know where your next meal is coming from, even if you're earning a paycheck, you're working full time, you're doing everything right. And we hear this story quite often. I'm doing everything right, and yet I'm going to get evicted from my apartment because they raised the rate again.
Yep.
And I already am 2 months behind on my electric bill, and what do I do? If you look at the programs that people are leaning into that they're needing help with, it's for basic needs assistance so they can stabilize. And then from there, most of the people we are working with, they are not living permanently on the streets. They are they're what we call housing unstable. They may have an eviction on their record. They may have struggled making ends meet. There could have been a critical medical issue that caused one partner in a 2-income family to have to stop earning income for a period of time. Single moms really that we work with have the hardest.
I believe it.
Trying to work a 40-hour-a-week job on a flex schedule with a child, especially during these months we're in right now. If you can't afford camp, if you can't afford daycare, what do you do with your kid?
Yeah, and when some politicians be like, well, you got to ask grandma to help out. What happens if grandma doesn't live in the area?
What happens if you are a recovering addict with 12 years of sobriety, and if you ask grandma for help, grandma is still in addiction?
What about that? Right.
What about that?
What about when you're taking care of an elderly person as well?
Exactly. I'm doing everything I can. Why can't I make ends meet? That is a common story we hear. That's why our programs are built the way they are. They're really based on intensive case management that meet the individual where they are and put together personal improvement plans so that they can begin moving towards their goals, setting SMART goals, helping connect with other resources in the community. We believe in a ecosystem of community partnerships because there isn't one single organization that's going to be able to do everything for everyone all the time.
Right.
In fact, I would go ahead and say there isn't one organization that can do everything all the time.
Right.
We have to pull it together.
Yeah. And no one person could do everything all the time.
Correct.
Which is why they need help. I get lost in the mall. I need to ask for directions. So trying to figure out some of this stuff when I've gone through this. During COVID, I couldn't afford a thing, right? We all really got surprised when the world stopped and all of our opportunities got ripped away from us at a point.
Yes.
You know, and others, depending on their lives, I didn't lose a job. I didn't miss a day of work. Oh, wow. Boy, that must have been nice, I guess.
That was very nice.
Yeah, but there's a whole situation when it comes to what's going on in the country right now, and especially with housing continually and the rising cost of everything. So let's talk about what it takes to get involved with your programs. And why don't we, because we clicked on the tab, I'm at community housing. So explain some of the actual, we talked about, we got to help people is very important. Now actually go through the process. So you've got programs.
Starting with community housing leads directly into our types of housing programs, because the purpose of our community housing program is to meet people where they are and help determine what they need for stable housing before they get to the point of complete instability and fall out of a continuum of housing. They
Okay.
stop progressing forward. So our community housing works with both individuals that are referrals from community partners like Pima County or the city of Tucson to help place people in affordable housing, both either those owned by us or in partner affordable housing opportunities. Or they're working with people that aren't quite able to even sustain regular rent, and they need more of a programmatic approach, and that's where our transitional housing comes in.
Okay.
And so our transitional housing is a shared living model, much like you were describing, because not everybody can even afford the reduced rates of affordable housing when they are standing themselves back up again
Right.
economically. So the shared housing model takes that into consideration and layers in 36-month programmatic shared housing with intensive personalized case management so people can begin putting what I call their building blocks in place to put their pathway into their next steps, whether that is moving into affordable housing or going back to school and staying in transitional housing until they upskill, or it might even be being able to recoup debt reconciliation or past evictions, working with legal issues because they had been evicted. And Pima County in Tucson, Arizona is notorious for having very strict eviction laws.
Oh.
So they can then move into affordable or what we call middle housing. And middle housing is that space in between affordable housing and market rate. You're not quite at the point of being able to buy a home of your own at full market rate, which is over $400,000 right now, average in Tucson and Pima
Wow.
County. But you are earning a steady income. Your life is stable. You are doing everything right. You just need to have access to housing that is at a middle rate, not the lowest rate. And this is for people that are probably earning 60 to 80% of the average median income, which is a great majority of our people living here in Pima County.
Okay. Fascinating. It's interesting because I do a lot of work in Cerrito, in Oro Valley, and I see these other towns. They're more like towns, so don't forget that. We are a bigger city. And it's interesting to see how they are doing because they're young.
They're
right?
young.
And they're newer. Right. So it's interesting to see how things work because the city of Tucson, it is different once you get here in the central area and in the downtown area,
Yes.
and things kind of operate again like a city. I lived in New York City. I can see the difference between like a suburb and these newer towns and then like what we are. And some people go, why Tucson this and why Tucson that? Well, it's the size. We're a big city. We've got a lot of history. You can't compare yourself to Phoenix a lot, which a lot of people do. Phoenix, the 5th biggest city in America. And people forget that the population can really do a lot there because there's so many people. So many people can add to more problems, but also it can also add to more solutions. Yes. So that's why, again, coming together like this, partnering with other organizations, getting that help, being vetted and sent people because this is the path and that's how it works. I was going to ask how the process starts. So it's with all these partners you're working with,
Yes.
which is, again, that's why Tucson works real well. It's a lot of these partnerships that really work together. A lot of us know one another and genuinely care.
Exactly. So being able to partner both with the county and the city, as well as partners like Gospel Rescue Mission,
Yep.
Primavera, La Frontera, our friends over at the Haven of Tucson for women, they are saying, hey, here's someone who is ready for their next step. If you think of housing as a pathway of stepping stones, shelter is the first stepping stone, transitional housing is the next stepping stone, middle housing is after, and then keep going to market rate.
Okay.
With shelter isn't meant to be permanent. It is, by definition, a temporary solution. Transitional housing, in its very name, it's not meant to be permanent, but it's meant to be a longer stay to allow people to develop more skills, more ability, more capacity. And sometimes we just need what we call that brain space to really hone in on, I have a job, I have a sober lifestyle. I have custody of my children, or I have relationships with my family and a social network. What I don't have is savings. What I don't have is a credit score that can allow me to sign a lease on my own apartment, or I need a little bit more help physically to continue healing. That's that transitional housing space.
Well, I was going to say, because the best thing you could give someone is time, because time does heal. That's what we know.
Yes.
And even if you're just getting through something, it does take just those weeks to kill a habit. If you stop you can kill a habit in 3 weeks, I think it is. It's like you're genetically not as attached to it. It takes like 3 weeks. That's once you get over that hump, it's like, all right, now you are on the path to quitting smoking cigarettes, we'll say, because now you're chemically not as addicted because it took 3 weeks to get that out of your system. It's different with everything, but I know that that's a real mental thing. Even a habit of doing exercise. Don't break that chain for 21 days, and then you are very unlikely to give up if you do break the chain, if you skip a day. So it's a real thing to give people, honestly, the word is grace. To give them the grace to find themselves again, to heal, and to reconstruct a foundation, because you can't build a life, you can't build anything without a foundation.
Correct.
Yes. Can you tell me like just a specific success story from someone that you know so that people know there's even more real?
So I actually want to share one of our alumni success stories. And the reason she's an alumni is because she's now thriving and so doing so well on her own. She has moved from being homeless to not only being completely self-sufficient, but she is now helping others who had similar life experiences as her get there. And that's Jessie. And Jessie began working with our community housing team after finishing a treatment for addiction. When she came to us, she knew she wanted to build a different life for herself because she had a young daughter and she wanted her daughter to have a much better future and a much better life. So Jessie's story is one that impacts 2 generations already. Jessie went from recovery into community housing, found affordable, stable housing, began working with the team to build up her capacity. It began working with an employment at Gospel Rescue Mission, a partner of ours.
My favorite place.
We hopefully will be your second. And at Gospel Rescue Mission, she began her journey in a career development that led her to her career today. She's still with Gospel Rescue Mission. She had debt that she needed to pay down. She had to do work for child custody. We worked with her throughout that. She was able to sign her own lease after a year. She's still maintaining her own lease. When you run into Jessie and her daughter is going to be 3 and runs around greeting everyone, is like a little mini welcoming committee, is absolutely thriving, happy, healthy. And in Jessie's own words, that's the life she wanted for her daughter. That's the life she wanted to give her daughter. But that's the life that she wouldn't have been able to provide had she not been connected with Compass Communities and our partners like Gospel Rescue Mission.
Absolutely amazing. Incredible. What a success. All right. And again, thank you to Gospel Rescue Mission. You know, I love them. I love them. It's a big, big deal. That organization doing a lot. So how can we help? How can people listening, how can I help besides the big donate button over there at compassaffordablehousing.org? How can people get involved? Are there volunteer opportunities with you or not quite as many?
I love this question. Of course, anyone, we are a registered Arizona tax credit. So for the charitable tax credit, in addition to that, we are standing up volunteer programs. We have several of our programs that offer volunteer opportunities, especially around the hands-on work, such as our Healthy Home Market, where we help meet food accessibility by providing fresh produce to the families we work with and community partners. And sometimes it's things as simple as looking for subject matter experts that would like to come do complimentary workshops on healthy aging, health and nutrition, exercise, even arts and crafts. We are looking to work with the whole person, and a person isn't one-dimensional, so the opportunities for activities and events is as multifaceted as the individuals we work with.
Well, there you go. I teach kids how to draw cartoons, so
There
you'll
you-
see me down there. I'll come teach some families how to have a fun time,
Please.
because that's what we can all do. If you've got a fun skill out there, all right, that's what we're looking for. You're looking for volunteer opportunities. That's amazing. So the fact I can come down there, just do what I always do and make sure that kids and kids of all ages have a good time. It's a fun way to volunteer if you yourself have these skills. And all you got to do is hit them on up over at info@compassaffordablehousing.org. Give them a phone call at 520-305-4724. Or are you giving tours? Can people visit?
We absolutely are. We do quarterly tours, our 3 properties. We just recently stood up our transitional housing property that we've done a couple tours with. If anyone listening also has questions about how do they apply to live at a Compass community, they can also reach out using info@compassaffordablehousing.org or info@compassaffordablehousing.org, and we'll help get them connected.
That's incredible. And really, I mean, that's what you want to do. Also, are you located at 48 North Tucson Boulevard? Is that like the main headquarters?
That is our administration offices.
Okay.
Our communities include Glenstone Village at Stone and Glen, real creative there. A Downtown Motor Lodge, the old Downtown Motor Lodge, which was now the Downtown Motors Apartments.
Okay.
On Stone in the heart of downtown Tucson, and our Alvord Court property at Park and Drexel.
I was looking at the photos of them before on the website as well. Gorgeous, by the way.
Yes.
Like very beautiful.
Our goal is to make everyone feel proud of the space they live in. So even our transitional housing spaces, they feel like you are living in what we call upscale living. Everyone deserves that. Everyone deserves to take pride in their space. And when you are working to rebuild your life, when you are working to build a better life for your family, we believe that we can meet you with a place you can be proud of.
Well, I mean, I believe it because I'm convinced, right? What a great conversation we just had today. Because today we made friends with Carolyn R. Gorst, Development Director for Compass Affordable Housing, building a better tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you so much, Frank.
This was Lifestyle Tucson.
Bing bong bing, time for a recap. What a great conversation I just had there with Carolyn R. Gorst. I was saying her name very fast. And it really was a lot to talk about all this. And again, I talked about New York a lot because growing up in those suburbs, growing up in Levittown, and talking about the experience of growing up, it's very different looking back at what the experience I had growing up, what the opportunities my father had when he's growing up and starting a family as compared to now. Like I was saying, look at a chart. Look at an infographic, look at those lines go up, up, and up on the cost of everything, and look at the fact of what everyone gets paid stay the exact same. So it's been a tough time out there, so I hope that you got something out of this by learning about Compass Affordable Housing. Go follow them over on Instagram and on Facebook. Just look up Compass Affordable Housing, obviously. We talked about the website plenty, compassaffordablehousing.org. Their offices are located at Compass Affordable Housing at 48 North Tucson Boulevard. Over at Tucson AZ 85716, 520-305-4724, or info@compassaffordablehousing.org will get you anything you need to know, anything we didn't cover. Go take a tour, go volunteer, go get involved, because helping folks out is what a community is all about, and that's what Tucson truly is. So let's make sure that we're giving our best effort toward Compass Affordable Housing, like Gospel Rescue Mission is, like these other great organizations that I have interviewed before. So let's help everybody out. So I want to thank our new friends at Compass Affordable Housing for joining you today. You've been listening to Lifestyle Tucson. If you're a nonprofit that would like to be on the show, email lifestyletucson@gmail.com. For more information about this program or to listen to something you may have missed, go to the Sunday Mornings page on klpx.com, kfma.com, mixfm.com, or espntucson.com. You can also subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, and Audible, or wherever fine podcasts are helping people. Follow on Facebook, Instagram, and especially YouTube at Lifestyle Tucson. Because I'm your BFF, your best Frank forever, Frank Powers, and Toot Toot Tucson. I love you the most.